Hey, welcome back, everyone. America is in the middle of an existential crisis, and how we get through this will determine the future of this country. Now, if we look at the history of this country as well, some things similar to this have happened before, and America has gotten through it before. And here to talk with us about this is Brent Bozell. He's the founder and the president of the Media Research Center. He's also the author of Stops Along the Way. Hey, Brent Bozell, thanks for being on Crossroads.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Brent, I mean, you've been in politics for a long time, a good 40 years now, and you've watched how it's changed. You've watched what's happened to America, and I think when people look at current politics, they think, what happened? You know, how did we get here? And so I want to talk to you about this. I mean, how did we get here? What has happened with American politics?
Well, let's ask ourselves this question. Is there anybody in the United States of America who finds politics tasteful today? Is there anyone who wakes up in the morning wanting to participate in the ugliness of politics? If you do, you got a problem. The overwhelming majority of Americans are sick and tired of what's happening here. Not that they're sick and tired of a debate, but they're sick and tired about how the debate is being carried forth. 40 years ago, I worked, and I'm writing this about my book. 40 years ago, I cut my teeth working for arguably the toughest political organization in America, where for the time, we were bare knuckles, and yet we were patty cakes compared to what is going on today. We adhered to strict guardrails where you didn't lie about anyone. You didn't go personal on anyone. If you were going to go after them, you said something to them that you'd be willing to say to them at the dinner table. And you might even say to them at the dinner table. You didn't do what is done today, which is a daily exercise in the politics of personal destruction. That's what politics is all about today, and we all know it. You didn't do that 40 years ago. Or if you did that, you were ostracized from the world of politics. Where politics is concerned, we need to get back to that because we need to have an honest debate in America about issues. We also have to be honest about the issues because we are, I believe, the left is acting on the adage of ends justifying means. I don't believe the right does that. I don't believe the right has ever done that. But for the left, it does work that way. And so I see what the left does is constant dishonesty. And it doesn't need to be that way. I think the left should stand on its own 2 feet, on its own belief system, and debate it.
Now, a few points I want to talk about with this. You know, you talk about this age of innocence that America had. And, you know, I'm a millennial, my generation, we tend to look at the way things have been since we were kids, when the innocence of the country was, I think, in the process of being lost in a lot of regards. And we look back at the 1950s and 1960s and we're like, wow, like things were so much different back then. People do seem like they were a lot more innocent in a lot of ways. And a lot of millennials too, they feel that they're being denied even, you know, the idea of owning a home for a lot of them, it seems far-fetched. And so they're wondering, can we ever have that again? Can we ever achieve that again? And, you know, a lot of them would look at this and say, well, that sounds great, but can it be done? What would you tell them?
Well, I don't want to be overly harsh on millennials or Generation Z or Q, wherever the hell we are now. But look, and this is true, and Josh, you'll agree with me on this. There is a signature in the millennial generation, and it's the signature of entitlement. There is a belief that one is entitled to things. You just mentioned one, entitled to have a home. No, you're not. You never have been. Neither was I. The reason I got a home was because I got a home, and I found a way to get a home, and it was tough as hell for me to get a home. I had a wife and 2 children when I came to Virginia. And I had a job that paid me $15,200 a year, and I had to make it work. You made it work. I never felt entitled. I never felt that anybody owed me a thing. And that was a difference generationally. Now, what is another difference of it? There were no roadblocks if I wanted to achieve it. What I got I got the rewards of my hard labor. What's happening today in a socialist society, the very good world news is that the world gives you everything. Government gives you everything you need. The bad news is it gives it to you on its timetable. And should you on your own succeed, you're taxed to death and it's taken back away from you. So what I would propose that millennials think about is if you return to an era of responsibility, you could tell the government to go pound sand and you will take those responsibilities yourself. Take, for example, the build better infrastructure deal, where the American people were first told it was to build roads and bridges, and now they understand it's to build everything, character and all that kind of stuff. No one's asked the question, what business is it of the federal government to build a bridge in Lexington, Kentucky? There's an internet highway system. That is their responsibility. Nothing else is their responsibility. Look at all the social programs that are out there. What's their responsibility? Unfortunately, people, generationally again, and looking at the entitlement side of things, they see the one flip side, which says, I should be free to do everything. But the other side of the coin is responsibility. You have to take responsibility for your actions as well. If you had that freedom and that responsibility, life would be much, much different. And guess what? Millennials would have no problem whatsoever. They can be as successful as my generation is. There's absolutely nothing to say that no other generation can be as successful as the great generation of the 1940s, the greatest generation, we all call them. No one is to say that somebody can't be as successful as that.
It's interesting that coming from that background and looking at precedent, what has happened before, you're very hopeful, more hopeful than most people I talk to. But it's a good point too that if you look at the trends right now, they are shifting. So I guess just last question, what do you think people need to see that they're missing right now? And also, have you seen similar situations to where America's at right now previously, and what was the shift at that time?
I see the potential moment here. I see 1979 on steroids. Look, in 1979, people were despondent. You had a Republican Party that was flatlining, that stood for nothing. It was go along with the Democrats. It was Democrat light. Does this sound familiar? You had a Democratic Party that was more and more and more liberal. And then you had a media that were liberal, and you had one guy, Ronald Reagan, who came forward, and the media despised him. I don't care what they say today. Oh, my God, they despised that man. The left despised him with every fiber of their being. They thought he was going to start World War III. They also thought he was senile at the same time. But they went after him with everything he had. And what did he offer in return? He offered the shining city on the hill. He offered a vision. But it wasn't just a vision that was gaga, let's all get along, kumbaya, hold hands. No. It was a vision of success. It was a vision of personal liberty. It was a vision of American exceptionalism. It was a vision of a just society. It was a vision of ordered life. It was a vision of a future for your families. It was a vision that was attainable. And as he spoke with that unbridled optimism of his, millions upon millions of people came forward that hadn't participated in the political process. People who had been loyal Democrats suddenly became Reagan Democrats because to their core, they didn't believe in the direction the Democratic Party was going. They believed in a set of values that Ronald Reagan was espousing. Okay, we're there again in 2022, except we're there on steroids. We don't have any room for maneuvering anymore. We are really at that final moment. But you can look at that same vision, you can look at that same hopefulness, you can look at that same world as I try to capture in this book. You can find that same age of innocence and success and ordered living and happiness and a future for your children, and attain it. So I believe that we are at that moment. We need the leader who's going to take us there.
Hey, Brent Bozell, thanks for being on Crossroads.
Thank you so much for having me.